There we go. Thanks, Dylan, and good morning, everyone. It's nice to have you with us. Yeah, so I want to take you through initially the kind of an overview of advanced TV and what it encompasses, and then delve a bit deeper into the broadcaster side of things. So advanced TV is a term that has, I suppose, fairly recently come about, and it's an umbrella term that refers to TV content that has evolved beyond traditional linear TV delivery methods. Now, it encompasses quite a range of things. I mean, I know from my own personal perspective, it's establishing where everything falls into the ecosystem and how one relates to the other. So advanced TV is the term that would cover everything, and it's a variety of interconnected solutions and platforms within the TV and digital video ecosystem, including video on demand, so VOD, connected TVs, CTVs, over-the-top services, audience-based linear targeting such as AdSmart, programmatic and addressable TV. And coming with advanced TV, there's an awful lot of jargon. So there are some of these phrases that you will be familiar with. So linear TV, addressable TV, BVOD, but there's new terms that have come about in terms of SVOD, TVOD, and it can be a bit mind-boggling. But just to give you a couple of key definitions, just to kind of line it out. So programmatic TV. So programmatic simply means the ability to buy ads on a platform according to kind of a prearranged formula, whereas addressable TV is advertising that has the ability to show different ads to different households while they're watching the same programming. On the other hand, over the top, which stands for over the top media services, is a term that relates to TV-like content that is delivered over the internet, but bypassing traditional TV formats. So it can be accessed through apps or connected TVs, as well as smartphones and tablets. And examples of OTT services include things like YouTube Premium, Netflix, and Amazon Prime, all of which you'll know are ad-free. Now, ad-supported OTT services include things such as Pluto TV or Samsung TV Plus or Rakuten TV. But the ad-supported OTT market in the UK is still very much in its infancy, whereas it is considerably more developed in the States. And you'll often find that if your business is linked to the States, that as I say, it's a much more mature market than it is here. There are also newer acronyms such as TVOD, which stands for transactional VOD. So these things are sent to try us and confuse us, but this is basically video content where the customer pays for each piece of video on demand. For example, paying for a fee to watch a movie or a sporting event. And how did advanced TV come about? Well, it's almost the culmination of 4 types of different advertising initiatives coming together to create advanced TV. And these range from a shift to addressability. We have seen broadcasters successfully launch addressable solutions, and some not so successfully. So successfully Sky, not so successfully ITV, but also the acceleration of automation. So, but ITV, for example, well, digital have always been able to have automation, but we're seeing it now in broadcaster TV with the launch of Planet V. Format consolidation, which takes into account things like Sky's recent One campaign launch, and measurement consolidation, which still is an ongoing task, which we'll cover in a bit more detail. So as a really, this isn't exclusive, but as a brief overview of what advanced TV covers, it looks at various areas of traditional TV platforms through to emerging TV platforms. It incorporates broadcasters, it incorporates TV apps, and also social video sites where you can also consume video. But for the purposes of today, we're going to be focusing on the broadcaster aspects of things and the YouTube aspect of things, as these are considered the largest areas of advanced TV in the UK. So advanced TV can also be described as bringing together the best of the internet and TV. So it's dynamic one-to-one ad delivery, and it gives access to huge volumes of first-party data for targeting purposes. It's a scalable medium, and hopefully this will increase further, and of high quality content in brand safe environments that is fully viewable. So going into a bit more detail on broadcaster VOD. So Thinkbox, the TV industry's marketing department, I suppose, described here, had an interesting quote to say, all TV is video, but not all video is TV. And we are watching, this chart here looks at video consumption over the last 10 years and how that has changed and evolved. Now, in terms of number of minutes, we're not actually watching dissimilar amounts of TV than we did 10 years ago. But what has changed is the way in which we watch it. So you can see that subscription VOD, such as Netflix, broadcaster VOD, playing back, etc., are significant growth areas over the last kind of 6 or 7 years. And how this might break down into BVOD, I've pulled together 2 charts here to look at all individuals and 1634 ads. And the reason being, when we talk about BVOD, 1634 ads are talked about a lot. Now, I appreciate that they might not be your demographic, but they are the demographic that is migrating to this form of viewing at the highest rate. But it's not to say that other people aren't. So in terms of all individuals, BVOD accounts for about 8% of their broadcaster viewing, whereas 1634s, it's 19%. So that differentiation shows you that if you are targeting a young audience, then BVOD probably needs to be a more significant part of your plan earlier on. Now, who are the broadcasters? What are the broadcaster solutions for advanced TV? So we've got ITV Hub, Sky, and All 4. Now they've all got significant volumes of people behind them. So for example, ITV has 32, almost 33 million registered users. But what's interesting to see is that they don't have their regular users are more like 8 to 10 million people. So Channel 4 is the same, and Sky is obviously on a household basis, but there's potential there for huge volumes and a lot of targeting capabilities. Now, unlike linear TV, the price of BVOD or AdSmart does not fluctuate with supply and demand. There is a base CPM, and then that is prorated up depending on the level of targeting that is going to be applied. But what can BVOD do? What is it good for? How will it help you? So there are kind of 4 pillars of capability that you can bring into your marketing mix. The first one being extending reach of linear TV. So it provides you with the capabilities to reach light viewers by specifically targeting those people who don't tend to watch linear TV but are watching BVOD. So you can extend your reach on that basis. Equally, it provides contextual opportunities, which means that you can align yourself with shows or episodes or themes that are relevant to your business. So for example, if you sell kitchen appliances, then you might want to associate yourself with cooking programs or travel programs for any other travel related products. There's also increased targeting capabilities, which I'll go on to talk in a bit more detail later. But this is the really exciting opportunity, actually, to bring TV into something a lot more granular and a lot more specific. And also the brand impact positioning. So it is a premium environment with high quality content and also with engaged viewers. So these graphs here, so this is looking at, these are some calculations that we did to look at incremental reach. So these 2 graphs look how BVOD might demonstrate incremental reach versus 100% linear activity. The chart on the left looks at adults as a buying audience only, and the chart on the right is for 1634s. So the chart on the left, that you can see that the differential when you add BVOD into the campaign is much smaller than the chart on the right. In fact, if you are targeting all adults, by adding BVOD into your campaign, it generated circa about 0.4% extra reach. Whereas when you're targeting 1634s, the reach differential was much higher at 2.1. And to expand on this further, Barb has created a planning tool that combines IPA touchpoint data with monthly ad impression data from the broadcasters and Barb's gold standard panel and census data to help determine an optimal split of ratings across linear and BVOD. And using this data, ThinkBox has produced the above graphs, which we've shown here, to distinguish what sort of optimal linear TV budget splits would be needed in order to deliver maximum 1+ reach for 4 different types of demographics. Now, you can see that so linear TV ultimately still represents the most cost-effective way to reach demographics, but some audiences will need to consider BVOD earlier in the total TV mix, as I mentioned earlier. So adults and ABC1 adults are shown in the top graph, and we can see that linear is still cost effectively able to reach those audiences, bring in the BVOD elements, whereas the migration of 1634s and housewives with kids to BVOD has been at a greater rate, and therefore the suggestion is that BVOD needs to come in at an earlier mix. With regards to the housewives, or housepersons, I should say, with children graph, what's interesting to note is that we would interpret that is if you are aiming to target children, then that graph probably makes sense. But if you're actually aiming to target their parents, then we would suggest and propose that you'd still target them via ABC1 ads on a linear basis. But it does show you how the different audiences are migrating and moving on. In terms of targeting capabilities, they are quite wide and varied, and do agree with different types of businesses. So, for example, on the left-hand side, we've got data-centric advertisers who are heavily involved in their data. Over to the right-hand side, to FMCG advertisers who don't have any customer data at all. So, whilst advanced TV is still in its relative infancy, the potential is huge. Granular targeting capabilities have historically been the reserve of digital or direct mail campaigns, but these capabilities are now available to advertisers, allowing them to target specific people whilst watching TV and predominantly on a big screen. As I said, at one end of the spectrum, we may have a very data-centric advertiser, for example, someone in the insurance vertical, who could take broadcaster registered user data and overlay it perhaps with renewal data, whilst deduping it against their existing customer base. This way, they could identify viewers who actively need to renew their car insurance, for example, or home insurance in the next 4 weeks. They could then be served with that marketing message via a big TV screen and eliminate those that the message wasn't relevant for. And this level of targeting wasn't possible 10 years ago via a TV set. At the other end of the spectrum, we have an FMCG client, perhaps the likes of Pepsi, who could overlay shopper segmentation data such as Nectar with a broadcaster's registered user base to identify people that regularly buy Coke. So Pepsi adverts could then be served to this group of people in a selected region, and pre and post sales data used to identify if there had been any uplift in sales. So the thinking there is that for regardless of the definition of the business, that there are targeting capabilities. And whilst the targeting capabilities of advanced TV are almost endless, we have to stress that a balance must be struck between targeting and effectiveness, but sometimes wastage is good. The deeper the targeting, the higher the CPM, and the harder the activity will have to work to generate cost-effective CPAs. Now, with all this positive news, there does come some challenges, and the BVOD challenges that I've listed here exist for all BVOD activity, whether you're buying for brand or for performance, but they do particularly affect BVOD when it's being considered for performance purposes. So in terms of limited volume, a lot of viewing is condensed into a small amount of programming. So for example, Love Island is a program that's consumed quite heavily via BVOD, or in addition, primetime drama. You won't have the likes of This Morning or Loose Women or daytime adverts generally being consumed via BVOD. Equally, the price comparison between BVOD and linear can seem quite stark. So let's say, for example, we've got an adult station average price of £3, yet your BVOD entry point is going to be more like £35 and £40. So they're quite significant differences. But interestingly enough, when you look at 1634s, they have migrated away from linear TV at such a rate that actually the BVOD CPMs are lower than the linear CPTs. Also, we have got the measurement side of things. BVOD is measured in impressions. Linear TV is measured in impacts. Now, linear TV is measured via the bar panel, as we know, and this takes into account all of the people that were in the room that saw the advert. BVOD measurement, on the other hand, only takes into account what the computer served to that household. So it takes one impression as one household. So there's lots of industry stats and numbers around viewers per impression, and the current average stat is about 1.6. So when we're planning for response rates and exit CPTs, we need to bear both of these things in mind. Additionally, there is the verified third-party measurement. Linear TV has Barb. There is nothing in existence for BVOD at the moment. The industry is launching a system called C-Flight towards the end of the year, which was a product initially developed by Sky, but has been bought into by Channel 4 and ITV also. And this will provide a single currency to be able to measure linear and BVOD campaigns in one hit. The other challenge that we're finding is the ability to interrogate the granular data. So with linear TV, we have a lot of this data available to us, and we are able to see time-stamped impact delivery in order to cross-reference it with web activity and model the data to understand how one is performing on the other. In the ability to get the granular data at a timestamp level from the broadcasters is something that we're still working on, but it is proving slightly trickier. And lastly, also the viewer mindset. So what state of mind that they're in when they're actually watching BVOD activity. Now, back in 2013, the Thinkbox undertook a study to understand what viewer motivations were for watching TV, and this encompassed everything: live, linear TV, BVOD, SVOD, etc. But they recently updated it to take into account the changes in the video landscape, and they've now extended it to include 8 need states or mindsets that drive people to watch TV. And shown here, we can see that how the different mindsets by different age groups are affected. So for example, the younger the age group, they tend to watch a lot more TV for distraction purposes, whereas the older the age group, they tend to watch it for more unwinding, comforting, escaping purposes. And on that basis, the different mindsets do also lend themselves to different types of viewing of TV. So if we go on to the next chart, how different types of video can satisfy different viewer states have been listed here in terms of what works well for linear TV and live TV and what works well for BVOD and SVOD. And as you can see, that the majority of the mind states when people choose to watch something on BVOD are very much unwind, comfort, indulge, escape. That doesn't suggest that they're keen to interrupt what they've chosen to watch to start renewing their home insurance or start switching their gas energy supplier. So whilst we are reaching the eyeballs in terms of it as a purely performance play, it's not lending itself to it immediately. But again, what we need is the data, the granular data, to be able to verify the assumption and to see how it might go forward. But ultimately, it's a method of trading TV that is here to stay, and it's an exciting time ahead.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Aldona.